Welcome back to Fire Force Anime Review, episode number 14. This one being the 18th episode of the anime, The Secret of Pyrokinesis, and the 187th chapter of the manga, Farewell. Yep. Now, in the case of today's episode, it finishes up chapter 63, covers the entirety of chapters 64 and 65, and covers parts of chapter 66. The only portions of the chapter they adapt for this episode are the first four pages, pages 11 to 14, and the last page, which is quite something the fact they did that. Yeah, I'm not really sure why. Now, the episode begins right where last week's episode left off, where you have Tabaki and Shira cleaning outside the firehouse. We have Captain Habra, the lieutenant from Squad 7, and the one of the lieutenants from Squad 1. Now, in the manga, this is how particularly very weird how the ranking system works. The leader of brigade is referred to as a commander, and lieutenant is basically a captain. In the dub, they refer to the leader as a captain, and the person who is second command as lieutenant. Basically, we have two lieutenants and a captain. Okay. And of course, they cut up Hibra's dialogue of the fact that she refers to Squad 8 mostly as Squad of Gorillas, though she doesn't bring up Shira as a gorilla. No, because she's in love with him. This is not mentioned at all. As a matter of fact, this whole episode, she does not exchange one word of dialogue with him. Now, in case you're wondering, in the manga, when she appears, and of course, now in the case of her sharing a scene with Shira, unlike in previous times she's shown up, she generally does. This episode and the manga, they share one scene together. One scene. It's a scene that they share a screen together for roughly about 10 seconds. And then, nothing. Not a single word of dialogue exchanged between them at all, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I'm not really sure why this is. It's particularly very weird. So they go in, they meet up with Obi. Now, in the manga, here's kind of the thing about this. Now, Iris serves all of them tea. Hybra basically doesn't like this very much. Well, mainly because of the fact that she refers to it as basically, we're working as a simple housewife. Because, oh yeah, because I asked to. Now, in the manga, there's no mention of this at all. This is actually a very appropriate change. I actually don't mind this change at all because, well, it makes perfect sense for her to react this way because she's known her for a long time. I mean, heck, she's like a sister to her. And then, of course, well, mostly put after this, it's very similar dialogue how it was in the manga. They'll exchange basically information about the white-clad soldiers, and they do add one thing here that's actually not in the manga. They do mention what happened with Captain Giovanni, where he supposedly disappeared, and they claim, oh yeah, the one who attacked Vulcan was an imposter, and they had supposedly the real Captain Giovanni appear on television. And Vulcan pointed out, though, they even showed this because in the manga they mentioned this, and I'm glad the fact the anime actually brought up the show. It's like, you see him on TV, he's like, that's not Giovanni. Yep. Yeah. That's simply put. Now, this change, I think, is good for the anime to do because it gives a little bit of context exactly what the heck Obi is basically explaining. And yeah, they do mention that the reason why they have the imposter because Hydra Industries does not want a scandal at all. The attack was definitely real. It's just that they claim it was somebody else, even though that the person who actually did commit it was the actual person. The one they put on screen was the imposter, and they kind of imply that the entirety of Company 3 is made up of White Clan soldiers. How the heck they managed this under their noses, I have no idea. Now, this is a very interesting scene that comes right after this, where they have Arthur talking to his donkey's head, the donkey he got from the last episode. Now, Maki has a lot of dialogue in this scene. Here's something quite weird about this, okay? Almost all of her dialogue, except what happens toward the very end, It's all from Shira. Yeah, for some reason he's not in the scene at all. Yeah, they changed it in the anime where they give all Maki his dialogue, which is kind of weird. Yeah, mostly put that's all Shira's dialogue. Maybe to get a little more screens, maybe to give her a little more dialogue for this episode. That's just possible, but no explanation why. And of course, they talk about Lieutenant's hat and the fact it ends up in the head of the donkey, and the fact, and they also add a little something here. They think, oh yeah, the horns. It feels like because there's the three, I'll just say plushies of the three mascots. One made of basically, I think it was like three dogs and a human. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, they actually add that in here, which I actually thought was really nice. Now, there's a couple things to do after this. Now, in the manga, they actually have it where Shira's actually told he's going to the seventh do some training, and in the anime, it's like, oh, like it's like, okay, I'll call somebody, and of course, well, the captain of Company 7 is called up and says, oh yeah, tell me what did, oh, that did. Speaking of training, is like, what? There's like Shira basically just told, apparently off screen, that he's going here because in the manga, he's actually told this. In the anime, he's told this off screen. Not really sure why they cut this out for, but it's particularly a little weird, but it's perfectly fine. Now, they do change some wording here, where they basically have the Captain Company 7 have let's just say, a sparring match with Arthur and Shira. And of course, they actually changed this particular name in the anime. They refer to it as a finishing move. And the manga refers to it as ultimate technique. And there's also more change of dialogue here to where basically, that's what I'm looking up in the manga, is that, well, when you talk about using the hand signs, yeah, because Shira knows that they're hand signs. In the manga, he's had to explain about the whole hand signs thing. Yeah. So I'm glad the fact they changed that, because it's kind of like this change is perfectly fine for him knowing, yeah, they do hand signs because that's what these are. These are hand signs. It because now in the manga, it's kind of like the writer was writing Shira to be stupid in this scene, who do not know what the heck hand signs are. I mean, he's moving his fingers to make particular moves. It's not that hard to figure out he's doing freaking hand signs. In the case of the anime, he does know what hand signs are, but because he wanted to copy his technique, and he refers to as an ancient form of Japanese martial arts, which in the manga it says it was Gachira, I think it's they pronounce it. Yeah, I'm kind of glad they changed to martial arts, because for an English-speaking audience, this change of dialogue makes perfect sense to do, because it's probably a little more easier for people to understand of what the heck he's talking about. People know what martial arts are. What he described in the manga, people probably have no idea what the heck he's even talking about at all. So he does now. His explanation is spot on from the manga, where he explains how doing a move like this, he does like tucks index finger in like this and has the thumb go like this, and kind of like an OK type of song. And this is sort of a bear claws way he explains it in the anime, and that's what Shira uses basically for him to thin out his flames. Now, I also love it the fact they actually add some dialogue to where the captain of the company, who actually has never seen, now Victor Light shows up in this particular scene. I'm actually very happy they added a thing like, who are you? And he says, oh, I'm Victor Light. I'm Company 8's one-man science squad. Yeah, this particular change is perfectly fine. I love that they actually did this, because if you read the manga, it's like, what? Did the company captain forget to ask, like, who the heck he is? My guess is the English dub is probably people who write the script in English dub. They must have noticed that. I'm like, yeah, all we have is ask that who he is. Have him introduce himself. Also, they also have it where before he arrived here, he was actually visiting Vulcan's workshop with Joker. Yep, he visited with Joker. He mentions, yeah, Shira was taken seriously. And they also ended the episode with him basically have a split screen with his brother. And this is basically the reason why they do this in the anime is because his Adol Link actually activates because he sends him probably nearby, and of course he's going to battle him. Yep. And of course, well, there is another form of war change to do here, where they have the twin girls who refer to Shira's face as a disgusting face. Yeah, we does this little change, little pose to. And of course, he explains of the technique behind his flight that he does, which is fine. hmm So overall, I would say the only change I think is though probably was kind of odd for this episode was give Maki all of Shira's dialogue for one scene. Oh yeah, and also they do make one big visual change here. Now they have Vulcan show up in I would say in the Matchbox room where basically the garage where the Matchbox is kept. In the manga, when he has this thing where he shows off his new gadget, it just basically a little bit of debris in the floor and a fire and him putting it out with the device. In the anime, this I actually think was a very good change. They actually put like they surround with like a low wood box, and they put a fire extinguisher next to it. Now it makes perfect sense for a firehouse to have a fire extinguisher. Have it not next to this little fire makes absolutely no freaking sense at all, and it's quite good the fact they actually added that there. I'm trying to think, was anything else? No, not really. Though this episode mostly almost just about wraps up the Vulcan's workshop arc. I would say the stuff that they did adapt for this episode, that's probably stuff for the Netherworld arc, which is probably going to start next week. This episode kind of does wrap up Vulcan's workshop, even though the story for it kind of wrapped up last week. This is more like an aftermath episode, which makes perfect sense for them to do. Yep. Excuse me. Now on to the news chapter of the manga. Farewell. Oh, before I continue, there was this one scene they actually did keep from the manga, except they changed the name of what they call this thing. Now, basically, Lieutenant is chastising Maki for using her flames as a firehouse, which is what he usually does. Now she says there's a reason for this, and it's still basically show off his new guns. Now they refer to her as a witch, which kind of explains her silly hat that she wears, and they refer to him as a Toriko, and in the manga, they refer to him as an Iron Guard. Okay, this change is fine. I don't think anybody would have a really big problem with it at all. Nope. Asakusa. Yep, that's basically what the company's captain is. Now, the chapter starts off basically with company arriving back at Asakusa, and the company kept walking everybody back. And apparently Joker came with them for some reason. Shira, of course, is running back of Captain Obi. And of course, like, what? I mean, Moonlight Mask, knock it off. We got them grounded, so we got wounded, so let's give them help. Is Shira right? And Kobe's like, yeah, he's fine. Nothing that friendly. Yeah, he got basically the crappy out of by Captain of Company 8. And of course, well, Arthur basically is one seriously injured, and of course, they all basically treat the wounded. And Obi's like, I appreciate you take us in. If you hadn't shoved, it would have been over us. We did exchange Sakiyabs. What has happened to the Empire? Of course, he explains what's going on. The Holy Cell Temple and the Evangelist Goons have joined forces. As a we of company have been excommunicated from the Empire. Your hunch was dead on, Lucky. Always that program is safe all times. Is all true? Indeed, Captain Barnes of Company 1 has become a martyr. You say he was done by a demon. Was that a doppelganger Habina was talking about? Can't say why, but the white clad were trying to summon a demon. But they are man. And the murdered Captain Barnes, the sin will fall on company, I suppose. So the battle between the Empire and the White Clans will become stronger. So what's the reason for Captain joining the fight? Because Company was excommunicated? He wasn't the type. We kept the company Special Fire Station 4. We had people talking about their captain. First Captain Hugh, not Captain Barnes. What's happened to the Empire? Company comrades, we can't just keep our mouth shut. Relax, Ogun. Are we against man? Okay, you need to listen. We can't afford to have more victims like those two. So that means we're going to help Company 8. And we go to Company 1, where they're having a empty casket funeral for Captain Barnes. Yeah, as for why he's not in the casket, the chap does not explain why. Despite the fact he was murdered by a demon. He got basically stabbed in the frickin' chest with a horn. And why the heck they decided to have an empty casket funeral? No idea. So basically, he was martyred by. This is basically what it was for. Captain Barnes' funeral was carried by Company 1 alone, martyred while pursuing the fugitive Obi Akaru. His cause was declared murder by Shira Kasubi, Company as total traitors from the enemy's empire. and Lieutenant from Company 1 is like, there's no way. We call Captain Barnes by words to us. Like if Johann von Karum. I have lived my life in devoted prayer. Even now that has not changed. What changes were you? It's a good sentiment basically. His last basically leaving everything for him. Sorry, the old man was irresponsible to take care. Catherine trying to change something. We need to protect Company 1, the company the captain built. It's time to take responsibility. What are you going to do? There's somewhere we need to go. Special Fire Force Company 5. Princess basically is like, one of her supporters like, where you at, the princess? I'm going back. Back where I was raised. St. Raphael's Convent. So yeah, we're going back here. Yeah, first time they've actually visited this place in quite some time in the series. Yep. So I would say, yeah, this chapter here, kind of feels like a conclusion to the Albany Rescue arc, and definitely does look like it's going to start up the very next arc of the series. Now, as for when Chapter 200 is going to be released, probably sometime next month. I hope so. Hope before the end of the year, because it'd be quite something to have a series reach 200 chapters this year. Yeah, it'll be by far the second series I read this year that reached 200. First being Black Clover. Yep. I get this chapter fully 8, 9 out of 10. It does advance the plot forward a lot of the series, and it feels as though it wraps up one arc and it's going to start another, which I'm very interested in seeing exactly what's going to happen next chapter. But who knows when it's going to come out. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, that's it for this particular review. My next review is going to be a movie review of the next film for the MCU, a film that should have got a lot more awards nominated than it did. Okay, do the next review. Bye.